Welcome, dear students, to yet another history class of Standard 9th. Today, we will continue with Chapter 10, Changing Life Part 2. In the previous class, we have discussed about the changes brought about in the fields of language and sports. Let us continue with the lesson. Indian theatre dates back around 5,000 years. The earliest form of Indian theatre was Sanskrit theatre that emerged sometime around the 2nd century BC. Theatre has been a part of our culture from the inception of the society system. Kutiyattam is the only surviving specimen of the ancient Sanskrit theatre. Yakshagana is a very popular theatre art in Karnataka and has existed under different names, at least since the 16th century. It is semi-classical in nature and involves music and songs based on Carnatic music, rich costumes, storylines based on the Mahabharata and Ramayana. Early plays were very long, sometimes running through an entire night. Now, the form, technique, duration of plays has all changed. People from different walks of life take part in the dramas. Musical theatre in India may be seen as a fairly new genre which Indians are waking up to. But one cannot forget the dance dramas which have been around forever. The biggest musical India has seen has to be Disney's famous Broadway musical, The Beauty and the Beast. This production was presented in Mumbai and Delhi in 2016 with an all-Indian cast and crew. Though this might be considered to be the country's first brush with international standard musical theatre. But in reality, India has always been the hub of dance and drama. Classical Indian musical theatre theory can be traced back to the Natya Shastra of Bharat Muni back in 400 BC. When it comes to musical theatre, one cannot forget the effervescent Ram Leela, which has been interpreted and showcased across the country from years. It is the finest example of musical theatre in India. Then there is also the Ras Leela depicting Lord Krishna's early life. Open-air community theatre performances with large crowds in atmosphere as vibrant as amphitheatres. Musical theatre in India can be found in every nook and cranny of the country. The change in the contemporary form is due to the political change of India in the colonial rule. In the modern days, with the theatres being performed on the stage, another form of theatre has gained its popularity. Street theatre. Street theatre is performed in any public space, and their topic is mostly about social evils and how it can be stopped and reformed. Cinema, otherwise known as a motion picture or film, brings joy and excitement to a lot of Indians. We Indians have made cinema an integral part of our lives. Films in itself have encountered evolution from the cinema with no color to the cinema now which is full of colors. India witnessed the first motion picture in the late 1910s and was introduced by late Dhundiraj Govind Phalke, also popularly known as Dada Saheb Phalke, through the film Raja Harishchandra. He is also considered to be the father of Indian cinema, although it was a silent film. Little did he know that he was giving birth to an art form whose sound will echo around the world. His initiative propelled the rise of many filmmakers in our country, although it took nearly 2 years after Raja Harishchandra for the first motion picture with sound to release, that is Alamara, directed by Ardeshir Irani. which was released on March 14, 1931. And the seed of color cinema was also sowed through Kisan Kanya, directed by Moti B. Gidwani in 1937. On the other hand, films which had songs, dance, fight, and so-called heroism were equally dominating the Indian film industry. These films were and are still also called as full-fledged commercial films. They have always been prolific in imbibing the audience with its intriguing content, be it with a typical family drama, a stereotypic love story, or Shah Rukh Khan's Palat theory. Time and again, Indian cinema have left its mark on the global platform through actors like Amitabh Bachchan with his acting skills, or Amir Khan for the movies he chooses. Talking of the process of filmmaking, a lot has transformed, and Indian filmmakers have been successful with the adaptation of this evolving craft. While filmmakers like Nitesh Tiwari articulated the Indian audience, he proved that a realistic film like Dangal can be made with the Indian audience with a commercial outline. On the other hand, South Indian director S.S. Rajamouli created a fictional world and took the Indian audience to places which were less peddled with his Bahubali. However, the Indian diaspora has always been a major contributor to the Indian cinema to hoist its flag over the global platform. Plainly speaking, Indian films have always been rich and will continue to be rich in terms of the content, market collection, and printing its impressions on a global audience. Today, the Indian film industry is the largest in the world in terms of the number of films produced in a year. We produced over 1,600 to 1,800 movies every year in more than 25 languages. Though Bollywood has always played the big daddy's role in the Indian cinema industry, it is no longer the scenario today. The trend has changed. Smaller towns and regional movies also play a very critical role towards making this happen in the country. It is no longer the industry of just Bollywood. Movies, which were 3 to 4 hours long, are now of only 1 or 1.5 hours. Moreover, the concept of one screen and one cinema hall has given way to multiplexes. The days of a movie running for 100 weeks in one cinema hall are over. Now, one movie runs in thousands of cinema halls in India and abroad simultaneously. Newspaper. Newspaper can be defined as a printed means of conveying current information. Today, the newspaper in India is a proud institution of our society. While working as a vehicle of persuasion, its basic function is to provide info-edutainment, that is, information, education, and entertainment. It also plays the role of watchdog of the society. The first Indian newspaper was published in 1780, the Bengal Gazette, popularly known as Hickey's Gazette. It was a two-pager in foolscap size. The growth of newspapers in India was quick. In newspapers, many changes took place after independence. News agency services became available on a regular basis with the Press Trust of India, which was started in 1946. With the help of number of agencies, information is fed to the newspapers. The Press Information Bureau gives information to the press on the government policies, programs, and activities. It also receives feedback from the people. Do you know that India has four major news agencies, namely Press Trust of India, United News of India, Samachar Bharati and Hindustan Samachar. In India, by 1970s, newspapers acquired the status of an industry. In fact, the Indian newspaper industry is one of the largest in the world. All through these years, the Indian newspaper industry has evolved into a powerful force. It informs, entertains, and also educates the readers so that they can fully participate in the affairs of the state. During the British rule, Indian newspaper came into existence and played an important role in the country's freedom struggle. In fact, newspaper worked as mouthpieces of the freedom struggle whether at the national and regional level. Bal Gangadhar Tilak brought Kesari and Maratha newspaper. Mahatma Gandhi started Young India and Harijan. Jawaharlal Nehru started the National Herald. Indian newspapers are characterized by their overt emphasis on politics and crime. But now, Indian newspapers have a lot of entertainment content in their columns with color pages and new designs. Daily newspapers like Times of India, The Hindu, Hindustan Times, The Statesman, Economic Times, The Tribune, Dainik Jagran, Dainik Bhaskar, Amar Ujala, etc. have become the most circulated newspapers in the country. Also, the newspapers are published in English, Hindi and other regional languages. We all know that the newspapers acts as an important check on government and administrators' plans and policies. Press also raise their voice if anything went wrong in the society. They raise voice against dictatorship, corruption and malpractices. They also keep us informed of what's happening in the country. It plays a vital role in strengthening the sovereignty and integrity of a nation. It also makes us aware of the problems faced by the people. Earlier, newspapers were thought to be the mouthpieces of the taluka or district. Now, they have to face tough competition from the state level newspaper chains. Their scope is enlarged to include funds for drought affected or flood affected people, helping meritorious students from lower income groups to go for higher education, and organizing or sponsoring cultural programs. Today, existing values of media governed by electronic and digital technology is undoubtedly posing a big challenge to print media and newspapers in particular. The Indian newspapers are going through tremendous technology transformation and are adapting methods and means to fight electronic media in the matter of news presentation and physical deliverance of the newspaper each day to the reader. Once upon a time, in the 1970s, we used to sit and stare out of the window, at the ceiling, into a book. Alternatively, we would stare at the transistor radio listening to the BBC's Test Match Special, Binaka Geet Mala or Forces Request. By the early 80s, we had begun to stare at the TV set and Doordarshan, which in those days were one and the same thing. Mid-1980s, Doordarshan's sponsored program brought television to life for the first time. We laughed with Ye Jo Hai Zindagi. We cried with Bunyad. We even worshipped the box through Ramayana and Mahabharata. Deserted roads, absolute silence to be disturbed only with an occasional yelp from a street dog. Shops with shutters drawn. No sight of a train or a bus moving by. If you grew up in India in the 80s, you probably would be able to relate to this scene. This was how Sunday mornings were like in most parts of India when in 1987 the epic Ramayana began to be aired on television. The country had just been introduced to the Wonder Box, and it was through the serial of Ramayana, with entire families crowding around, that Indians began their tryst with the television. With manufacturers like Solidaire, Dianora, and Philips being the only ones in the market during the initial days, only a privileged lot owned the Wonder Box. Owning a television was a luxury, and the proud owners would often invite their neighbors to watch a program or two. With the telecast of the serial Ramayana based on Hindu mythological story, television became a great hit with the Indian audience. The actors who played the role of Ram and Sita were worshipped and idolized, and real life characters became real. The Ramayana was followed suit by the Mahabharata. Within a matter of few years, televisions started to invade each and every house and were no longer considered luxury. Gone were the times when a whole village would gather in front of a single television in awe. Indian television expanded its wings, and spotting the opportunity, a number of networks like Sun, Star, and Zee set up channels in various Indian languages. With the entry of CNN, NGC, and Discovery, Indian viewers got the chance to enjoy the beauty of the Niagara within the confines of one's home, and watch the lion chase its prey without having to visit the African forests. In 1991, Doordarshan broadcast the Gulf War. CNN's Peter Arnett's went live from Baghdad, and within a year, our television screen, like the Iraqi capital, exploded into action. So much so that in 1998 we watched a different desert storm in Sharjah courtesy our very own Sachin Tendulkar. The dawn of the new millennium has been typified by reality shows. Indian channels began to ape British and American shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, American Idol, coming up with shows suited for Indian taste. Kaun Banega Karodpati, the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, has completed several successful seasons. Indian Idol, Airtel Super Singer, Dance India Dance, Jodi Number One, and a lot of other shows on the lines of American Idol have managed to woo viewers all over India, keeping them on their toes with the extensive drama and talent involved. The language, the technique of presentation, studios equipped with the latest technology, and the use of outdoor broadcasting vans have expanded the scope of Indian TV channels still further and brought in transparency and variety. From black and white solitaire television sets to Samsung home theater systems, cable TV to direct to home, that is DTH services, India has come a long way in the television industry. What with the high definition programming and recording now available, watching television is no longer an entertainment but an experience. Also, thanks to the telly, the gap between villages and cities has certainly been bridged to a great extent by making villagers aware of everything from technological advancements to the hottest gossip in the film industry. This wonder box has indeed broadened the thoughts and views of people by exposing them to what is happening outside their country too. Consider this. Television was introduced in India in 1959, but we had only one national channel for over 30 years, which sporadically burst into life. 25 years later, we have 24/7 TV. There are now over 800 licensed channels. The first 24/7 news channel began in 1998. By 2014, there were 400 and counting in more than 15 languages. Wonder what it will be next. 3D televisions are already available in the market. So, is it going to be just a while before we all sit at home, 3D glasses on, maybe watching the arrows from Ramayana zoom right through into our eyes? My dear students, so far this year we have studied the history of modern India. Next year we will study how to make use of this subject in the practical world. We shall see how history can be a part of our daily life and not just a thing of the past. So that's all for this class. Thank you.